the big news remains TCS, $100 billion in market cap. I want to get that timeline once again. By the way, it's now up 3%, 3496. So this will continue to rise and shine. I'm sure during the day, as at least it's showing signs of that. And TCS is doing a bit of a lone range of sorts, because I don't think the others are doing this. But this is the timeline for TCS market cap from 10 billion to 50 to 75 to about $100 billion right now, and well over that mark. So that is part one of the equation. Part two of the equation is what TCS is doing vis-a-vis what some of the other companies are doing. So bring up what Infosys is doing today, what Tech Mahindra and HCL Tech are doing today. And I think TCS is doing a bit of a lone range after the kind of commentary that they've given. It's not that the other companies are doing so, but TCS seems to be striking a bit of a lone range. And this brings you to what quality companies can do. The last 12 months chart of TCS or the last 24 months chart of TCS will show you that people had started getting a bit disillusioned about what will happen to large cap IT. This is 2 years, and look at what's happened till October 2017. It's been a virtually flat move for Tata Consultancy Services. It had dipped quite a bit as well. There are a lot of question marks about whether large cap IT is as nimble to be able to do this, but that's the stuff that champions are made of. They consolidate for a while and then they come back. In between all of these timelines, there have been numerous events that have happened. There's been a change of guard wherein Chandra has moved on and Rajesh is now at the helm. There is the buyback that happened from TCS and a clutch of other companies. Infosys went through a saga of its own, which led people to believe that is it better to look at TCS and some of the other players as opposed to Infosys. So all of this has happened over the last 12 months. And while the stock may have consolidated in the ensuing 18 months, the last 6 months, TCS has been one big performer. I know the lion's share of the move has happened in the last 10 odd days, but look at the 6-month chart of TCS. Yes, we talk about what mid-cap IT has done, and stocks like Mindtree and some of the others have gone up 100%, but hey, this is a large cap institutionally held stock, and this has gained about 35 odd percent. This is big move that is coming in. $100 billion of market cap. Urmil Shah, I'm told, is on the phone line with us as well. Urmil, thanks so much for taking the time out this early in the morning. The mind boggles to think we have a $100 billion market cap company in the country. The mind boggles and tries to think of what next could happen with the big boy. I think the near term seems to be set by virtue of the commentary that TCS has given. Have you been able to pencil in the long term?
So clearly, we think that TCS is set to move to the double-digit growth trajectory. They have been very early in identifying the transition to the digital solutions and have made the investments and also got the deals up and running. And in fact, last year has seen what is very important for such a large company to grow, that is the large deals in digital, coming in. So clearly, while for the next 3 years, we do believe that TCS is placed to get back to the double digit. But, we are very confident, as regards the way the company has been run. If you talk about the top management, identifying the changes in the business, being able to maintain the margins, it has been best amongst the large caps over a longer period of time. So, I do think that if there is one company that can get to $200 billion, TCS is definitely a good contender.
Yeah. Urmil, that's what I was trying to talk about. I mean, the last 2 years or 3 years, and rightly so, I'm not saying wrongly so, a lot of question marks about whether large cap IT and the largest player in that space, which is TCS, are nimble enough to adopt things. And I think TCS has shown that, right? That it may be large, it may be $100 billion worth of market cap or 95 billion, whatever the case may have been when these questions started coming up. With the go-to-market strategy, with that uptick in the digital revenues that they are showing even on that larger base.
Absolutely. And, why I was telling that they have been, very proactive in identifying trends is, you have many mini TCSs working within the, the organization structure. So, that's why they have been able to be nimble enough to, still grow or maintain the profitability at such a high base.
What's next, though? I mean, there is obviously this tussle or bill that would be there for which IT companies gives the maximum bang for the buck from here on. And the common belief that people would have, misplaced maybe it could be as well, that the larger player will not have such a big beta on its price as some of the other mid-sized companies or the smaller large cap companies would have as well. What would be your thought, and what's your pecking order really on the tech space?
So both on the large caps and the mid caps, we believe that still the industry scenario is not that positive, and not all the companies are geared up, on the tech transition. So it is still recommended to be very stock specific. Amongst large caps, we like HCL Tech and TCS. We believe that both these companies, in fact, in our coverage amongst the large caps, these are the only two companies which we expect to grow in double digits over the next 2 years. Of course, HCL has the benefit of inorganic growth as well. For TCS, it's going to be only the organic pie. So, these are the two companies which we like in the large cap.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Urmil. Thanks a lot for joining in. Remember, the flagship group company contributes about 85% of the group's profit. That's the key thing. The big cash cow for the Tata Group is TCS, and that's at the $100 billion market cap mark. Deven Choksi is with us for a quick perspective out here as well. Deven, good having you. Thanks so much for joining in. $100 billion. It's a momentous occasion for corporate India. We have our first $100 billion company.
Hey, Nitij, good morning. Yes, I think incidentally, it is the first $100 billion company in the market cap. And if you look at your neighbor's market cap, the entire market cap of your neighbor, Pakistan, I think is $80 billion. So I think it speaks a volume about how India has focused on creating the growth through the IT. And TCS in particular, I think even though they have had their challenges with the transition in the IT model which was taking place, they have fundamentally reshaped themselves very well with the I think the complete focus on the digital cloud computing, artificial or intelligence or machine learning, dynamic learning, etc. So I think these are some of the key traits of I think the leaders which this company has fulfilled, and probably I think that's the reason for which the stock price has moved up in the market cap of $100 billion.
One final question. Do you believe that juggernaut can continue, or do you think, I mean, one is to feel happy about a company hitting 100 billion. Second is to try and take stock of, for an investor's perspective, what could make the bigger bang for the buck? Would it be the behemoth, or would it be some of the smaller names?
Well, I think interesting point here. I think some of the larger companies in the global universe are planning to create a complete digital interface, and that's where I think the new journey has started for the bigger companies. Though do agree that I think the startups are the ones who are ruling the entire show right now, and the mid-tier IT companies are typically catering to those startups because of the size matching with each other. But some of the larger companies, in order to come back to their survival levels, call it IoT, call it OTT, VOD, all these areas where I think the larger companies are planning to implement the strategy. And I think that's where the likes of TCS are playing a larger role, because they've been maintaining the good relationship with some of the larger companies. So I don't know, but I think you will not get 30% kind of a growth which you have seen in decade of 90s. But certainly I think you could expect, I think, between 5 to 10% kind of a growth continuing for the larger companies.
Okay, Deven, leave it at that. Many thanks for joining and giving us that perspective. Well, that's essentially the views that we have on TCS. Okay, I'm told, joined by a very special voice, Hiren Ved of Alchemy Capital. I was hoping to get him on cam sometime during the day, but I'll take what comes to me. Hiren, so good having you. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I won't take too much of your time. But momentous occasion for corporate India, Hiren. Maybe 5 years ago, everybody was talking about at some point of time we getting $100 billion market cap. Did it happen later than what you would otherwise have thought from a corporate India perspective? $100 billion of market cap?
No, I think I agree. It's a great feeling. My sense was that it will come from a company first, which has a domestic demand flavor, but nonetheless it has come from a company which has a global opportunity, and that really tells you that Indian companies can exploit a global opportunity and create significant wealth. So if you look at the journey of all the emerging market economies which have become developed, I think one of the important characteristics was that each of these countries created a competitive edge globally in some sectors, like Japan did it in electronics and cars, automotive. That was followed by Korea. And I think in India, we are doing it in IT services and in auto components. So I think it's really fascinating that that a country like India and a company like TCS has been able to breach that 100 billion mark.
What next, Hiren? I mean, one is to feel happy about the fact that there is a behemoth we have amidst us, and God only knows. I mean, the companies like Reliance and some of the others could be in the fray very, very shortly. It's about, what, 50,000-60,000 crores away from that mark as well. But two would be, what next happens for companies which are this large in size? I know global companies have demonstrated that 100 billion is one number. It's a milestone really, and not really a target, because they've gone on and scaled newer frontiers at a very fast clip on that base. What do you think happens to Indian companies? Because we haven't seen this size of market capitalization in ever. What do you think happens to such large companies over the course of the next 5-10 years, with the economy growing the way it is and the global economy growing the way it is?
I think there are two important aspects. It's not just about the fact that because you've reached this scale now, therefore your opportunity goes away. I think what is important is that there are two things. The opportunity always exists. And if as a company you are able to adapt to the new environment, for example, all IT companies in India started with Y2K, then moved to application development, then moved to maintenance, now moving to cloud and the newer areas of technology. So I think the key to keep growing, and as you rightly said, 100 billion is just a number. Why not 200 billion? I think that question is more relevant to whether the companies remain relevant and reinvent themselves every few years. So if you have the management vision and the ability to execute and reinvent yourself, 100 billion, it can just be a number. I mean, we are now talking about some of the companies in the U.S. like Apple and Alphabet, Amazon reaching multi-billion-dollar or even approaching $1 trillion in market cap. So 100 billion is just a number. It really depends upon you as a company. How well are you able to adapt to yourself?
Okay, Hiren, I know it's a busy morning. Just one last question, really. We've had one company coming in. The mind is always greedy. The heart is always greedy. 5 years out, do you believe there could be a number of spots which could be up there for grabs, $100 billion mark, a number of companies hitting there? You speak to a lot of corporate India. You analyze a lot of corporate India. Do you think we are well and truly on our way?
I think so. I think it will come, and I think the other ones will come from more domestic-oriented segments. So, I think there will be several more. I think quite a few will come from the financial services back from India.
Interesting. Okay, Hiren, much appreciate you taking the time out. Thanks so much for joining in this early in the morning.